Welcome again, everyone, to our Mountain Minds Monday. And it's really amazing. Even the people from Inclines have now trickled in the meantime. So that is dedication coming over the pass when the highway is closed and everything is clogged. So our events are only possible because, number one, we have the volunteers we just talked about. Number two, equally important, we have sponsors. And I have to point out, as we grow, actually our cost is growing, but we have a constant number of sponsors recently. So we are also looking for even more, but we're very, very happy that we have our faithful sponsors, starting with New Leaders, who's been with us for many, many years. It's a local Truckee-based web development company. So if you need web and apps developed, I've only heard good things about them, so please contact New Leaders and say that you heard about them from Tahoe Silicon Mountain. We have the lift, co-working. Co-working is one of the things we've always hoped would come to our area, and it has come in multiple ways. Here it's the lift. So if you know entrepreneurs looking for a co-working space, talk to the lift. And then Holland and Hart, I want to give an extra plug today because not only, like Dick representing Holland and Hart, not only is Holland and Hart a faithful sponsor of Tahoe Silicon Mountain, they also helped us set up the organization from a legal point of view. So we are Tahoe Silicon Mountain Association. And also helping us navigate what does that mean? Do we actually have to do a tax return and all those things? So they're also all kind of help. Dick also was a speaker this year, is a personal sponsor, so kind of checking all the possible boxes that you can do right. So thank you so much for you and your company being a big pillar here in our association. Then we also have community partners. We have the Chamber of Commerce, that is also treating everyone who belongs, which means comes here, to us as a member. So you can, for example, go to Tahoe, the Tuesday mornings events for the member rate. There are also events on Thursdays that we can recommend with special help for small business, typically. There is Tahoe-Truckee Community Television. Some of you know that it's important because you're watching live stream right now. Thank you. We use Pay It to be able to offer credit card payments. Tahoe Donor, they are supporting us here by not charging extra for the room. So whenever you order an extra drink, you're doing a good thing because you make them motivated to keep going here. And then there's the Truckee Roundhouse, who also helps us in kind with things. The one thing I want to mention is, with the constant number of sponsors, we were wondering how this should work out financially. Of course, we hope we can get more sponsors. That's number one. Number two, we have our individual members. Thank you so much for everyone who now said, hey, I'm going to pay for a full year, including a drink, every time I come for $150. I can be totally transparent. When you come and have a drink, we're not actually really getting some extra money compared to the regular attendance. But we know that not everybody can come every time, so we make a little bit of extra, and that is helping us also sponsor organizations. So you're doing something good for Tahoe Silicon Mountain if you sign up for that deal. Just out of interest, how many in the room actually did sign up for this yet? Okay, so thank you so much for doing it, and as you can see, still some room to grow that program. Today, I'm not jumping right to the speaker. There's one more important announcement, and I was supposed to hold these in my hand so I'm not forgetting it, but I even thought about it without it. There's a Tahoe Pitch Showcase coming up. This is a special event in September that Rachel will start to talk more about. And you get the mic.
Hi. So I am super, super excited to announce our Tahoe Pitch Showcase. We're doing this in partnership with the SBC, and what it's going to be on our Monday night event on September 11th at 6 at the usual time, we're going to have a small group of entrepreneurs pitching their businesses here. We'll have a panel of expert judges, and then also you all will be given the opportunity to vote. So the judges will be asking questions and giving feedback. We'll have time also for some of you to give feedback to the entrepreneurs, and then we'll have a voting session at the end. We'll also have prizes for the entrepreneur who wins. And so right now we're looking for, from our members, from all of you, donations of prizes. So it could be, say you're a graphic designer, maybe it's some graphic design hours for the winner. It really could be anything to support the winning entrepreneur. And let's see, if you feel like, yeah, I want to pitch my business, but I've never pitched before, I don't have a deck, I'm not sure if I'm ready. We also have a program called Tahoe Pitch Camp to get you ready, and then Jess from the SBC is going to tell you about that.
Thanks, Rachel. So if you are excited about Tahoe Pitch Showcase but not quite ready to get up here and pitch your pitch, which is kind of how I'm feeling about pitching the pitch night. We have a Tahoe Pitch Camp, so it'll be in August. It will be 3 sessions plus a dress rehearsal. It's open to everyone of all levels. Don't be afraid to come, and don't feel like you're too good to come. Anyone is welcome. Kristen York will be teaching it. I'm sure a lot of you know her. She's really an awesome, entrepreneurial, spirited person. She knows a lot. So it starts on August 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th, leading up to the night on September 11th.
And how do they apply?
How do you apply? For both. If you think you could skip the showcase, it's totally fine. Both applications will go through me, so my email is on the bottom of this flyer. And it's just a Google form. Happy to email it to you. You can also find it on our website, and we'll be sending this information out via email from the Tahoe Silicon Mountain email also. So you'll be hearing about it. This is the first time we're telling anyone. Great.
Thank you. Very cool. Let's see what kind of companies will come out of that. So make sure you're at that event, because then in the future, when it's the next big thing, you can say, I was there and I voted for them. So it's going to be worth it. But with that, let's talk about today's topic. So the topic is civic technology to make citizens happy and good government. And I think happy citizens and good government is really what we feel that we need. And this is specifically now for local government, something that is often underestimated. And I have to say, I had a couple of occasions where I was sitting in town hall meetings or local meetings, and I'm always impressed about the quality of discussion on a very local level. So local politics can be very good, but it also can be lonely with few people being involved. So this is something that we're going to talk about today. Our speaker is not unknown for us, coming over from Incline, Kevin Lyons. And he is the co-founder and CEO of Governance Sciences Group. Mm-hmm. And the first product that came out is FlashVote, which is going to be used as the first example. He has a background both in engineering especially like chemical engineering from Cornell and UC Santa Barbara. Also studied politics, business in Berkeley. And so kind of very broad background. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about this is because I'm personally also one of those people who is interested in both sides, technology and also politics. Fun fact of number 2 of the night is that when I graduated from high school, the high school newspaper had predictions of what everyone would become when they grow up. And in my case, they actually predicted I would become the Chancellor of Germany. And so
there's still time.
There's still time. I was at that time a member in the youth organization of the party of Angela Merkel, who is now the Chancellor. So I'm not sure if I can still make that turn, but anyway, I'm very interested in this mixture between technology and politics that is kind of both are passions of mine. So, Kevin, looking forward to what you have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks to all you guys for braving the traffic or whatever you had to go through to get here. I came from Incline Village and it took an hour. I can't imagine what people who came from Reno or other places had to deal with. So thanks again. And thanks to our volunteers, Rachel and Garrett and Johannes and Ellen as well, and all the sponsors. This is one of those great events. I think I first came here a couple years ago and was kind of eye-opening, like, wow, there is a startup thing happening here. And that sucked me in, and I know a lot of the faces here. Hopefully you all meet each other, founders and otherwise, because there is a sea change happening up here, I think, in terms of people not just coming here to sell their businesses in Incline Village and stay there long enough, but to actually come here and operate their businesses. And in my case, and plenty of other people, some who are here, to actually come here and start their businesses. And so it's very exciting to see so many engineers in tech and otherwise. So I'm a governance nerd. I'm what happens when you combine a chemical physics person with the dumb luck to get admitted to a program run by a guy who ends up winning a Nobel Prize in governance about 15 years later. You end up thinking about government in terms of math and equations in that kind of program. But to me, the exciting part and why I shifted from chemical physics to business and public policy was because people are interesting, more interesting to me than molecules. You can talk to them, you can ask questions. And we're gonna do some of that tonight. Yes, can you hear? Oh. No? Okay, cool. So Governance Scientists Group, we started to bring technology to help make governments better. Long-term plan, replace politicians with software. How's that sound? All right, good. That's just labs. FlashVote's out there right now. We'll get there. We actually have a patent pending right now on that. Okay, so I like to start. I try to get in a habit. I could get up here and talk at you for an hour. But let's start with, what do you want to know? Throw some ideas out here. Go ahead. Why'd you come? Besides the pizza and beer and people, throw a few out here so I know where to steer.
How do you increase voters? Like
Voter turnout. Okay, great. What else?
What does FlashVote do?
What does FlashVote do? Okay, we'll cover that. Great. What else? Anyone? I'm going to make you work harder than this. Nothing? Pizza and beer. They're all good things. Yes, go.
Well, maybe the discussion of how voters turn one way or the other, you know.
Okay, so like
Influence.
Influence.
Yeah.
Excellent. And what else? Yes?
Any ways to inspire youth to get involved?
Interesting. Ask me that later, please. I don't have that one built in. Yes?
Make public meetings short.
Make public meetings short. Yeah, that's, we actually have some technology for that. Remind me about that one at the end, too. Anyone else? Yes?
Bringing fact-based decision-making to politics.
Ah, facts and data? Lame. Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll cover that.
Alternative facts.
Fake facts. They're the best.
How to track the money.
Track the money. Okay, so sort of what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, good. Yes?
Listen to the people.
Listen to the people. Okay, well, we need to give the people a voice. Probably a good time to jump into FlashVote. Yeah.
Speaking of people,
Yes?
there's a YouTube comment from Devin Middlebrook who says, being a government employee trying to implement technology to make a change.
Yeah, so let's not underestimate the challenges there as well. Devin, ping me later. We got your back. All right, cool. So some of the topics that I actually built into some pictures are listed. I think we heard public input and influence and FlashVote, so we'll definitely cover those. I can also jump into some other civic technologies and talk about dissatisfaction and anything else as we have time. So rolling now. I'm going to start with a little warm-up. That was a warm-up to a warm-up. It'll be interactive. Then I am going to talk at you about, going to give you a civics refresher, probably in a style you haven't seen before. Let me know what you think. We're in the feedback business. We need it. And then we'll cover the topics that you picked out of that bundle before, and then we'll do open questions and answers. Sound good? All right, let's roll. Who knows what's special about July 4, 1776? We have an expert over here. What happened on July 2nd, 1776? It was passed. Yeah, it was ratified on July 4th. Very good. This is fantastic. Besides fireworks, pretending that it's July 4th, what's special about July 4th? Why does that stand out in the history of government? Anyone? Democracy. What about it?
We get to choose our own government, so we're supposed to be
Okay.
able to use our vote.
We're supposed to. So everyone know what an org chart is, right? You kind of got the boss, supervisor, and then you have like the employee or the reporting relationship, right? Do X, we did X. Goes around like that? Okay. Here's the org chart on July 3rd, 1776, or July 1st, if you want to go that way. There was this guy, the king. He ruled, right? He made the rules for all these people at his whim. And then here's the people that eventually decided they were going to try something else. Democracy. Here's what happened. Kind of momentous, right? Let's put ourselves at the top of the org chart. Let's fire our boss. Let's run this ourselves. We can do it better than that guy way over there who doesn't really seem to pay attention to us or do things that we want. This ended up triggering revolutions all over the world. And to this day, there's models. The Declaration of Independence, which we're referring to on July 4th, is still an aspirational document that governments look up to. But what do we really say when we mean democracy? What's democracy? What's the first word that comes to mind? Give me some word association. Hit me. Who's got it? What is it? We the people. What else? For the people.
Voting.
Voting. There it is. Representation. Okay. Freedom. Top of the org chart, right?
Making choices.
Making choices. How?
Hopefully through, the original way was people got together and they voted what they wanted to get done, and the government did what the people wanted them to do.
I grew up in a town here. Right in there with my shaky hand. Our zip code is 01776. Sudbury, Massachusetts. We marched, I remember when I was 6 years old, we recreated the march to Lexington, where the war started. And one of the amazing things is technology for government in New England, town hall meetings, is over 400 years old. Predates the internet, predates everything else, works really well. The people are actually the legislature. Very interesting. Turns out to have a lot of safeguard properties to make sure that you only do things that are at least good enough for a majority. That was inspiring to our product, FlashVote. My point with this question is this. Someone mentioned voting. There's a confusion about what that means. Are you voting to elect a ruler? No, you're voting to elect representatives, right? We're a group. Someone else is going to go get us our pizza or our beer, as I'll tell you later. And that's really the model. And this was revolutionary stuff. This is stuff that hadn't been really done since ancient Greece. And what's interesting is the word voting is not in there. I think the Greek word for voting is like siphos or something I couldn't begin to pronounce or spell. But it actually means the people rule. Ruled by the people. Aristocracy is ruled by a subset of the people, right? Some people make the rules. In this case, the people make their own rules. Breakthrough stuff. Here we go. Now let's get controversial. Probably all seen the protesters. Is she right? Is Donald Trump your president? Okay. We're hesitating. Okay. Well, maybe not. We may not be happy with it. We may love it, right? But Electoral College, right? We're going to go all technical, right? How about this? I didn't hear anyone here that actually works for the executive branch of the federal government. Can the president command you to do anything in the U.S.? No. He's an officer in the government branch, right? Just like a city manager or anyone else. It's another powerful breakthrough, right? This isn't a king that's there for life. This is a person it's just one way of picking a person for a job, actually. We happen to have an election. They've thrown dice. You can be appointed. Right? There's all kinds of different ways to pick people, but at the end of the day, the role doesn't change. He's CEO of the federal government, not of the state governments, not of the local governments, and so on. Interesting, right? Have you thought about it that way before? Okay. Set you up for this one. Aliens come down. If you're of a certain age, this was a very common scenario. Take me to your leader. What do you do? Do you have a leader? Yeah.
Yeah, we go to the Koch brothers.
Go to the Koch brothers. So his leader is the Koch brothers. Anyone else got a different leader? You actually helped make my point, right? I would go to my wife. You guys may have your own rules for that, right? We're kind of like cats in democracy, which means we have a little more responsibility. We can screw things up a little more, but at the end of the day, that's our routine, and everyone appreciates it. Okay. Last question. Which statement is true? Governments waste citizens' money. Governments save citizens' money. Trick question, right? Yeah, I just heard both. Absolutely. Yeah, and what we all want is less of this, more of this, and then we all become better off. It's pretty cool, and that's where we can come in. All right, so that was the warm-up. Now we're going to give you civics refresher. All get up and leave. No, give me 5 minutes, and I'll tell you why I've spent 25 years studying governance so I can explain how it works in terms of beer, pizza, and donuts. Starting with beer. Everyone know what a beer run is? Who's done a beer run? Okay, why do we do a beer run? Cheaper. It's better to send 1 drunk than 10 drunks. A lot of good reasons, right? Get the discount on the case versus the single bottles, right? Better, faster, cheaper. That's it. We can do things collectively, better, faster, cheaper than we can do individually. We can pool our resources. So we actually know the rules. There's all kinds of different ways to do a beer run, though. Cans are fine, right? You like cans? How about bottles? Still a beer run. Whatever the group wants, we want to get bottles. Want kegs? She's stronger than anyone in this room. Anyone ever tried that? All perfectly valid beer runs. All right, so that's the format of the beer, but how are you going to get it? Well, okay, there's kind of the classic technique, the horse-drawn. There's the modern technique. You ever seen one of the great killer apps for drones is delivering beer to people in ice fishing houses? There's the green way, they do in China. And then there's the Canadian way, and don't get mad at me for this. Okay, so anyway, there's a ton of ways. These are all valid, right? If go get this kind of beer, comes back, we're all happy. Cool. All right, so there's also a bunch of ways it can go wrong. Okay, use your intuition here. Your beer run comes back with wine. Someone's getting their butt kicked. They come back with Zima. Someone is never getting spoken to again. They drink the beer. Give you empty bottles. You're going to probably have a good laugh over that one. And the last one, the worst case, is they just don't come back, or they come back with money and no beer. You don't need any political training or law training to understand, like, intuitively, these are failures. These are bad outcomes. This was not what was supposed to happen when the group put its money together. Okay, so you're actually kind of already a policy expert. Group funds are for whole group interests. No unauthorized use of group funds. Don't spend the money on snacks for you. Don't get light beer if everyone wants something else. Don't overpay for beer, give it away for someone else. It's kind of municipal law in a nutshell. Right there, believe it or not. At the local level, where the laws are actually pretty good. Okay, so one way to think about this whole beer run event or institution is you start with a problem or an opportunity, right? We need more beer. What's the fastest, cheapest, best way to do it? Also applies to donuts, pizza, whatever you're going to do. You team up, do a group purchase. There's some explicit authorization. You know, go get beer, don't get this type of beer, get this type of beer. Forget the light beer. And the person doing the beer run, they know all this. They know, and not only do you know, if you've ever done that, you know that what you're supposed to get because you've been told. You also know implicitly all these things you're not supposed to do. All the things we just covered. And now we're going to see how that maps to local government. Isn't that weird? So, think of local government as a set of pools, right? We pool our money together to get things. Better, faster, cheaper. Generally cheaper. Pool some property. Maybe we own some roads, some pipes, some cable TV, some all kinds of stuff together. And some behaviors. We actually contribute some behaviors to be managed in common, right? All right, we all agree not to punch each other in the face. Cool? We're going to waive that right, essentially. We're going to throw it in the pool and agree we're all going to do it. Just one example of countless. And that creates value for everybody. We're all better off living in that situation. Well, it turns out that the cash maps to the annual budget. The governments do. Every dollar is authorized from the people through the representatives in an annual budget. Same thing with the property. If you ever heard of a capital improvement plan, well, this is like, how are we going to maintain this property? Do we have to reinvest in it? Do we have to maintain it? Do we have to make some planned end-of-life expenditures? That's what a government's doing, local government. And then the rules, so ordinances. Those are essentially, hey, we're all going to agree to put our trash out on Tuesdays and not Wednesdays, or whatever it is. And these all managed for the benefit of all the contributors to that pool. That's the theory, right? Make sense? Pretty simple? There's a shared goal. There's these pools. And then there's kind of a checklist to go through. A business process. That's the logic at a high level that we're going to be automating in 10 years. Okay, so what's the difference now? I point out the similarities. Well, a beer run is one time. Governments are ongoing. It's perpetual. It's okay, let's do this, and we'll get beer every week, or pizza. Beer run gets immediate feedback. When you come back, dude, what did you do? Or, yeah, awesome, right? Governments aren't that lucky. They don't get that feedback. They can make very well-intentioned mistakes or bad-intentioned mistakes, but they may not find out either case. Elections every few years aren't feedback at all. And of course, the beer run is usually done by a friend, which is why you give them your money and trust them to come back. Governments tend to attract politicians. One of my favorite onion headlines of all time. I'll show you my second one later on. Okay. So when we do this pool, we have to have people to manage it, right? It doesn't just happen automatically yet. But we have expectations of the government, just like we'd have the person doing a beer run. Or if you hired someone to get you beer. You, at the top, your agent at the bottom. 2 candidates interview. It's pretty easy stuff. Who are you going to hire? I'll do what you want. I'll do what I want. What does everyone expect in this room? Hey! All right. It gets harder. All right, who would you fire? A or B? B. Okay. Is that a twist? You'll do what I want. More like the mafia. Who would you jail? C. Yeah. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so that's just one-to-one. We all understand that. Anyone not kind of intuitively understand that? That was not complicated. Which group would you hire? You got to hire a bunch of people to do something. Okay, we'll do what you want. We'll do what we want. You'll do what we want. Still A. Who are you going to fire? Who are you going to jail? Again, this maps to municipal law, corporate law. All right, now you're a group. We're all here. We're going to hire someone to run Tahoe Silicon Mountain. We couldn't do any better than what we have, so let's stick with them. We're going to hire a group of people. Fantastic. A. That's who you hire, fire, jail. There's other versions of this I'm not going to reference. Some of you may get that one. Okay, so now, suppose you've been hired as a public servant. You're gung-ho, you're ready to serve your community. You're a public servant, you have public masters, as we remember earlier. Kind of a phrase you may not have heard before, but that's kind of implied. We'll do what you all want. Awesome. Suppose you've been elected, selected out of our large group because it's too unwieldy for the whole group to try to manage you. So we're going to pick you. What's your job? We'll make sure they do what you want.
Get the right members. Hire and fire the city members.
All the things that fall under this. That's right. They're the representatives. They can't act independently. They act as a group on behalf of the whole group. So they're responsible for the whole operation. They delegate a lot of it, which is good. Some they're not allowed to. So the question is, how well is this working? Wah, wah, wah. I saw a lot of sad faces. That was amazing. A lot of smiles, and I just went like, oh. I did have to ask. So since we have enough math people in the room here, consider this ideal. Okay, so this is the number, this is the chance that a policy gets passed. This is from federal numbers. This is the support it has. So here, no one wants it. Likelihood of pass, you'd think would be 0 ideally. Up here, everyone wants it. You'd think it would always pass, right? Well, guess what the data says? No one wants it, about a 30% chance of passing. Everyone wants it, greatest idea ever. About a 30% chance of passing. In statistical speak, we call this uncorrelated. Right? That's at the federal level. It's about as bad as it gets. They don't have laws to actually enforce a lot of the beer run rules, for example. And this is what the current public perspective seems to be, my #1 favorite Onion headline. Right? American people hire high-power lobbyists to push interest in Congress. I'm going to read the first line. Citing a desire to gain influence in Washington, the American people confirmed Friday they've hired high-powered DC lobbyist Jack Weldon. Do you feel that way? Everyone ever feel that way? Yeah? All right. Yeah. Okay, so the federal level, we're not there yet. We'll get there. But you got to start locally where people are actually really definitely trying to do a good job and really appreciate the help that we can give them as citizens. All right, so recap. Why do we have governments? It's pretty simple, actually. Faster, better, cheaper. Ask them. They'll tell you that. Right? If it's not, they're not trying to do it if they can be done better. Best common interest to constituents, right? Some of these phrases probably strike home. And how are they supposed to do it? There's all kinds of rules, implied and otherwise. When you give them money, there's certain things you imply for them to do. But there's a big problem even at the local level. How do you get meaningful guidance? Right? One person goes to a meeting and says, hey, everyone hates this. What's the next person say at that meeting? Hey, everyone loves this. You're the elected official. I became an appointed official just to experience this firsthand. And you watch. Hate, hate, hate. And you can't help but count sometimes, even though you know it's the worst sample in the world. It's worse than no data, is having people come up from these tiny samples, self-organized and showing up and ranting against something. But you do it, because you're human and they're human. So we can help them. All right, questions so far? Promise that's the end of the teaching session. All right.
Works better at a local level.
Sure does. Sure does. There's no, politics don't, potholes do not have parties, is one of the sayings, right?
Even when it works at a local level, though, it's still slow.
Can be, and actually that's often by design. When you have public money, you incur other steps because you have to make sure that it actually is serving everybody. Yeah, there's a good pizza example for that. Suppose 4 of us, we all got $5, and I'm going to go and get a slice of pizza. I got $5. It's a slice of pizza. It's $5. I can go do that, right? Can I change my mind when I get to the pizza place? Sure. Can I swap it out for a calzone? Pizza looks terrible, dry, old. Can I switch to something entirely different? You bet. Nodding. Yep, of course, right? Now, suppose 3 of you guys and me all pool $5 together to get a whole pizza. Now I get to the pizza place. You said, all right, we're getting a pepperoni, right? Yep, good. I got $20 in my pocket. Is it my money? No. How much of it is mine? Is any of it mine? Can I take my $5 out?
You represent all.
It's like a trust, right? We've just created a trust to buy pizza. This temporary trust. Lawyers smiling, laughing. But that's exactly right. This is it. This is what we're doing implicitly. I did train to be a law professor, unfortunately. And so you get to the pizza place, and you've got a duty to buy a pepperoni pizza. Can I just switch it to something else? Got to go through some process. I got to call you guys. The pepperoni looks terrible. But the sausage looks really good. What do you guys think? Right? This is the feedback that you need to do a good job. It's really hard. Okay. How are we doing? Interesting? Nodding? Give me some green. Anyone? All right, give me some yellow. Okay, good. Give me some red. All right, we'll learn some red. Okay. On to your topics. Let's jump to, all right, let's do this one real quick because this sets up, which org chart would you rather be in? A or B? A. Okay, 100% of people, we've done a lot of research with groups, citizens like this. Really shocking. Ride with me, it'll get more controversial. All right, which org chart's democracy? Just went over that. A.
I've got a question about
Yeah.
this one, and how come it's so often that people choose the other one in revolution?
Hold that thought. All right, so A. Guess how many people say A? Everyone knows that's what democracy is, right? All right, which org chart feels more like reality? That was like your best answer yet. Everyone? Anyone? A? No? Head shaking? Yeah, interesting. Okay, now here comes the curious one. Everyone says that. Which org chart is established by law? A? Who thinks A? All right. Okay, who thinks B? We got some maybe Bs, we got some Bs, right? This is really interesting. The answer is A. But you find a split, right? Because there's this disconnect, like, well, wait a minute. It's like this. What's going on, right? Here's what's going on. Citizens and local governments can both want A to be reality. We'll do what y'all want, but what do y'all want us to do? It's a really hard problem. You have to get around self-selection, you have to get around bias, you have to get around fake news and fake facts. And that's how you rebuild this outhouse. Okay. Top says politicians, the bottom says voters. Someone actually built this performance art. I hope it's not performance art, it's art. Okay. All right, so polarization. So here's a question, like, what are we all going to agree on? Seems like we're pretty polarized, right? Yeah, very polarized. Well, we'll do what y'all want. Okay, well, we want pepperoni, we want sausage, we want all, right? Ooh. Okay. Turns out there are a lot of commonalities. And in the, again, this kind of noisy political sphere, we like to talk about things we don't agree on. Sometimes the politicians like us to do that, so it distracts us from when they're doing what they want, knowing that we don't want them to do it. Is this a true statement? No conservative, even stereotypically true, no conservative ever asked their government to waste their money. Right? Nodding, heads nodding. What about the second one? No liberal ever asked their government to treat them badly. Right? Kind of stereotypically true. Okay. Whoa. Is this true? Did a liberal ever ask their government to waste their money?
That's true.
They did not. Did a conservative ever ask their government to treat them badly? Is this true? No citizen ever asked their government to waste their money. We kind of cover that with the beer run. No citizen ever asked their government to treat them badly. All true, right? Yeah.
Waste is too broad a term.
Yeah, it's a technical term, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, it means paying more than you need to for the item.
Who's to say what we need or not?
Is this waste? Yeah.
Is that savings account?
Depending on how you save things. So no one, or this, right? It can be very, very troubling. All I work in Latin America, where that's from. What's interesting is, to the extent that you can find these things that everyone agrees on, you essentially have these commandments, like with the beer run commandments. Government shalt not, government shalt. Comes guidelines, envelopes for people to work within. In fact, you can come up with a chart. Suppose something's better and costs less. What kind of discretion do you have as a public official? Got to do it, right? Suppose it costs more and it's worse. Right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of green and a lot of red, kind of a lot of must do and a lot of must not do. Again, this feeds into automation. But what happens here? You got trade-offs. Anyone ever paid less for something to get less quality? Because that was the trade-off that worked for them? Yeah, right. Or paid more for something better. Also true. And different communities are going to have different preferences for these kind of things. So, office space, is it good for the company? Common ground, we actually have this. Is it best for the public as a whole? Is it something that we all are on board with? And there's a lot of stuff there that you can actually create guidelines with. Okay, so the influence question came up. What's this question mark, right? How do we get this, how do we make this line real? Because obviously it doesn't feel that way right now. Here's a typical community. Who do you hear from in a community?
The edges.
The edges, right? The haters, because they're motivated, and the graders, usually because they're self-interested in the policy. All right. Turns out these people really show up for some reason more than these people, because it's a different group every time. These people just hate everything. Ever heard of cave people? Citizens against virtually everything. There's about 10 other nicknames for these folks. They're awesome. Actipests, Hateful Eight, I could go on. All right, but what does that tell you? Does that tell you this? Right? Does that tell you as the tip of the iceberg? Maybe. Does it tell you this? They're the outliers, they're crazy? You don't know. You need this. You need a sample from the middle. But you're not getting it at meetings. I want to be an old person. But they have more time. They show up, right? They're wiser in a lot of ways, but they're also a self-selected group. There's no rules. The input has to be constructive. Public meetings. This guy's like his own meme. And there's no rules. It has to be informed. Okay? There's no rule. Yeah, you can get up and sing if you want at a public meeting. Social media. All right, cool. We're going to engage more people. Governments are doing a good job with social media. Great for outbound, promoting stuff, right? For road closures. But inbound. You know what the ratio of hours posted on YouTube is to hours watched? 250 to 1. Right? So think about that, the social media. Think of the active posters versus the lurkers. It's a huge ratio. Not a great way to hear from the many. Online forums, put it on, online discussion. Hey, let's take a town hall, put it online. Sounds great, right? Except what happens? You still have self-selection, you still have small numbers. In a county of 400,000, they get 19. This particular company averages 17 responses per online forum, which is 10 times better than a public meeting. Now it sounds good, right? Right? Okay. It is. It's great. It's a great first step, but not the answer. I put this picture up because we're in Truckee. So I found out from the town manager, this is great. Apparently you guys had a trail survey, and there's anti-trail people. Apparently they exist, and they hacked the trail survey. So that's pretty funny. Not as funny as the pro-trail people who hacked it better. So Truckee looks like a very engaged community in this survey. You know, not so much. It's open. You know the problem with SurveyMonkey style results. They're great for certain uses, but not for this kind of use. All right, so what are you left with? Well, professional scientific surveys. Very expensive. 20, 30, 40 grand and up. This is why you don't see more surveys. Okay. So there's a lot of buildup to sort of this problem. You seeing a theme here? Yeah. We've heard phrases like, we're tired of governing in a vacuum. We're throwing darts, right? We want guidance. We want to make the right choice, but we don't have data we can rely on. Okay. I'll give you a couple more examples, because this one in particular struck home. The year is 1972. A lot of you guys were alive then, like me. What % of white Americans favored segregation? Throw out a few answers. Take a guess. Wild stab. 1972. 10%? Okay, what else? 40, higher? I'm going to throw out a number. I'm from Nevada now, so I'm going to throw out a number at 50%. Who's taking the over? Over? A lot of overs? All right, who's taking the under? Okay, so maybe a little more for the under. Okay. All right, what percent of whites believe the majority of whites in their area favored segregation? Over? We're all over? Okay. 15%. Not that many. Right, pretty low for 1972, if you remember. What does that tell you? It's not even getting the data, right? Like someone did a survey. This is a survey from 1972. Someone knew this. But the public didn't know it. Governments didn't know it. And so by going along, not knowing what everyone else is also thinking, I don't want to be the bad guy. I guess, look, it's really noisy out there. Everyone is for segregation. I don't want to be the bad guy. Who knows how many decades segregation went on in the US, beyond the point where people actually wanted it at all. Stunning, right? Common knowledge is a powerful thing, too, with data. I'll give you a local example. So you're an elected official, you get bombarded, you get emails, you get phone calls, you get all this stuff, and you're human, and you're processing it. And you say, I say, hey, what do you think people think about this change to the garbage policy? And you go, it's a real example, actual quote, well, a majority are in favor and the rest don't give a crap. That sounds pretty good for a policy, right? Nothing but benefits, no harms, rock and roll, let's move forward. So our very first topical flash vote. Found 2-to-1 against. Because we were tapping into regular people that aren't getting their elected officials. More importantly, we found some non-obvious flaws. Oh, people don't have garages. Oh my God, I have a garage. The other people I'm talking to have a garage, but you drive around, half the people don't have garages. Right? Really eye-opening stuff. There's wisdom in that crowd, if you can harness it. Coolest thing to your common knowledge was I had printed out results and I was going to announce them. Some user had taken the survey, saw them. We share the results with the community when the survey's done. So everyone knows what everyone else voted anonymously. Printed the results, brought them to the public meeting, and didn't just say, hey, I think this is a terrible idea and I'm against it. Hey, there was a flash vote survey today, and it turns out 2-to-1 people are actually against this. And here's why. Which one do you think is more powerful to an elected official?
Voters.
Yeah, you got data. You know what people want. Yeah, and that particular one saved over $1,000 a citizen. Okay. All right, so now, all the buildup for flash vote, which you asked about, so you're going to hear about it. What if scientific surveys could be 95% faster, better, cheaper, and easier? Would you use them more? Sure would. Citizens are going to get a lot happier, especially if they see you using them, see the results, and see you guys taking action. And that's the key, actionable input from the public as a whole. 48 hours from the time we launch a survey to the time the results are compiled and reported to everyone. Everyone that takes the survey gets a courtesy email, actually, with the results. We do a whole year of surveys so that it's going to cost less than $1,000 per survey. We've automated everything we can with modern technology, and we provide the expert consulting. And once the government says, yep, that's what I want to know, good to go, everything else happens automatically. So all they need to do is get data. How do we make them more accurate than like SurveyMonkey or all the other stuff? Yeah, so we sample the citizens independent of the survey topic. That's one. Who here has 2 hours a week to help make their government better? Oh, a couple hands. You're lying, probably. No, but that's generous. So there's a handful of civic spirit. Okay. Who here has 1 minute a month to help make their government better? I better see everybody's hand, or damn near, right? I mean, watch one less cat video, people. Unless it's a really good one, then forward it. But yeah, right? So that's what we offer the citizens. And that's where we find the middle ground, compared to attending a public meeting, which is more like 2 hours or longer, as was brought up earlier.
Who formulates the questions?
Yeah.
Do you help formulate the
We do. We actually quality control them, formulate them, we'll draft them, or we'll just edit them, whatever they need. And then we actually make sure there's about 23 points of quality control, including how long does it take, what's the readability, grade level, stuff like that. All these things factor in. Most importantly, though, is that it's targeted to citizen expertise, right? So if I ask you, all right, everybody, should we build a $40 million water treatment plant? I'm a chemical engineer. I have no idea what the answer to that question is. Ask me something else, even if it's stupid like this. Do you want to pay $1 a month to have water that's 5 degrees cooler at your tap? Right? Goofy. I don't know. Maybe someone thinks it's a good idea. But I am the expert. I'm the only one that knows the answer to that. And you are, and you are, and you are, and you are, right? And so you aggregate that, and all of a sudden you've quantified public interest. You have something actionable, which is kind of interesting.
Educate, or, I mean, I've
Yes.
taken a lot of your FlashVotes
Mm-hmm.
over the last few years.
Oh, great.
But a lot of times I don't think you provide a background educational process.
So,
Can you repeat the question?
yeah, sorry, yeah. So the question was, what about background and education? So there's a couple of types of questions we like to do, or governments like to do. One is sort of a did you know? Did you know X? What did you think of X? Very helpful question. You were in Incline Village or somewhere else for the flash votes?
Tahoe City.
Tahoe City, yeah. So they've done a few of those, like sewer, flushable wipes, things like that, yeah. The other one is to provide context for the question. So present that trade-off. And some of the questions, that's easier to do than others. But we always try to provide enough context, including a not sure option, right? That's very critical. If you don't know, great. Don't get lumped in with the people who actually have a more informed opinion.
Do you consider the person's education and age when you ask these questions?
So we do capture demographics. Yeah, and there are some scientific tricks where you can correlate information level with preference. So you can actually kind of create a line, which is helpful. Yes?
Are you going to talk in more detail about how you set up these, or deal with these sampling biases or not?
Yeah, I think I would, but I think we're going to have to jump to questions. 5 minutes?
No, sorry,
Yeah.
just saying repeat the question.
Oh, sorry, repeat the question. Yeah, so the question was about sampling biases. Yeah, that's right. So we have demographic capture information from users because it's a user-based system. So we can track age, male, female, other attributes to make sure that we know who the sample is. And so we can renormalize it if you want to. Or you can actually look within the subgroups. Sometimes there's data in there. Are older people different from younger people? Not, hey, if we lump everyone together, what's this one number? Because that's really, it's not about that one number like you think of with polling. Yes?
At what point does your vote matter in regards to collection of the majority?
Yeah, so at what point does your vote matter was the question. And do you know the math on that in actual elections? Has anyone looked into that? It's actually quite amazing that anyone votes. Because the chance of your vote being the deciding vote is very, very, very small. A lot of 0.00000. Yeah, but we ask people why they participate in this, and it's to make their voice heard because they actually see the results. And they actually see where they are relative to the rest of the community. And most people really think that's interesting as well. So we have seen policies, to complete your answer, is, yeah, governments do things differently because of the data they get from FlashVote. And they do things better. Yes?
I question the whole concept of surveys.
Mm-hmm.
A survey to me is just the same thing as if you're in a jury trial and you're going to be judged by your peers. And thank God I've never been in a jury trial, but I've seen some of them. And when I looked at those peers, all I could say is, never do something wrong that they're going to judge me.
So do you know how juries are selected?
In other words, those
Yeah.
who have time to answer surveys, to me, are basically, it doesn't count. They're too damn lazy. They have too much.
Great question. Yeah. So the juries scare the hell out of this gentleman, as they do most of us who look at them. Juries are very non-randomly selected after they are randomly selected. So one of the dirty secrets of surveys and polling in general is, hey, we got 384 responses, we're plus or minus 5%. Yeah, but you asked a lot more than that, right? You called people at 6:30 p.m. on a landline to get your 384 responses, right? Okay, is that a random sample of the population? Hell no. Right? Juries, By the time the lawyers are done disqualifying them and quizzing them and everything else, hardly a random sample. So we actually get regular people to answer these things, because they only take a minute. And we get a 50 to 70% response rate. Yeah, it's unheard of. Because we really do keep it easy. We don't let the government make long surveys. People take long surveys. They don't take them.
You don't ask very many questions.
Well, it's online. It's by text. It's by phone call. Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to reach everybody.
And it's short, right?
And it's short. It's always short. Yeah. 5 questions or less. OK. Great. And we know we're not just hearing from the noisy. I thought someone might ask this. And the angry. Because people say nice things. No one has ever driven to a public meeting, gotten in their car, driven to a public meeting, got out of the car and said, hey guys, just want to let you know you're doing a great job. And now I'm going to go home. OK. Never happened. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Throw in the waiting 2 hours to speak. Definitely hasn't happened. But it's clickable word cloud. Hey, good. You're doing a good job. Whoa. That's nice, isn't it? It's a more balanced perspective. They like it. They deserve it. Yeah. OK, so since there's some math people here, this is how it works. Public input value, FlashVote users divided by your meeting gadflies plus your internet lopers. All right? Get that number big, you drown out these people to the extent they're not representative. To the extent they are representative, you amplify them. All right. Signal theory, anyone? That's what you want. All right. So in an org chart, since we covered that, this is the answer, we believe, to getting a representative sample of input from representative citizens. And that brings us to a video. If you want to watch a video, and then we'll take the questions. How about that? Yeah? OK. Anything else while we're waiting for the video? It's super cliche music. Sorry.
Make it so easy for you to make better decisions and make citizens much. How does FlashVote make it so easy for you to make better decisions and make citizens much happier? We collect scientific survey data over 90% faster, cheaper, and easier than before, so you can have real public input whenever you want. How does it work? You decide how many citizens to reach, we sign them up. You pick a topic, we provide high-quality questions. You tell us when you want results, and we launch the survey. We report the results with built-in analytics. We do a new survey each month, pre-scheduled up to a year in advance. You won't believe how easy and useful FlashVote is, and how much your community loves it. With FlashVote, you can finally serve the many, not just the noisy.
It's a heavily tested
Contact us for a
tagline.
demo or to learn more.
OK. Questions?
Yeah, there was a book quite popular.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So now,
Thank you.
we tried today to do the repetition of questions during the during the talk, but now let's use the microphones if we're in the Q&A session.
There was a book some time ago called How to Lie with Statistics, and you keep saying scientific, but you know, scientific can be a whole range of various things. How do you prove that you're really doing good statistics?
So there's 2 things in the question, which I don't have to repeat, right? OK, so people like to use scientifically meaningful or statistically meaningful. There's like a bunch of things there. Statistic meaningfulness is the plus or minus thing you think about. And so I think 96 is plus or minus 10%. Whether you're sampling from 10,000 or a billion of something, you get 96 of them, black or red balls, whatever it is. 95% of the time, you're going to be within plus or minus 10% of the true value. That's kind of the low end. 384, you're going to be at plus or minus 5%. There's some adjustments you make if the sample size is small, but really it doesn't matter if you're sampling the 300 million in the US. That's why you saw the political polls in the presidential campaign that are only like 400, 600, 800 people. So that's one thing. That's just whatever you're sampling, whatever bigger sample you're sampling, you're within a certain range of the true value as if you were to do the whole sample. But the important thing is, what are you sampling? And so if I'm a public official and I'm sitting up there and I watch 50 people in a row, call it 96 people in a row, come up and say this is the worst thing they've ever heard of, right? What have I learned? 100% of whatever I just sampled is against this. What did I just sample? Do I know? Did I see him get off the same bus?
Actually, Kevin,
Yeah.
at public meetings, you're likely to get way skewed because the only people that show up at the public meetings are those angry folks.
Exactly right. Yeah, so the comment was, it's actually going to be way skewed at a public meeting. Maybe it's not 96 people getting off a bus, but there's self-organization and rallying, and people will show up and be loud on certain topics to be noisy. This is why the noisy end up winning a lot of these battles right now. This is why when the governments have the opportunity to serve the many, not just the noisy, they get excited. So the real key to the scientific survey is the sample not being correlated to the topic. Okay? Another question? Yes.
I think you started to touch on this a little bit, but how are you dealing with the uninformed? You said it's self-selecting in some way.
Yeah, we select the sample separate from the surveys so that it's uncorrelated. Yes, sorry. So the key is, if you do, even the so-called professional surveys, anyone ever gotten like, hey, this is a survey about the airport or something, right? Phone call or something. Already you're creating a bias in who's going to participate in that survey because they know the topic. What happens with ours is, because they're so short, everyone takes them all. So you actually, even if you do sign up because you think you want to take a specific survey, you end up taking them all. So we get this nice uncorrelated sample. Does that cover your question? Okay, great.
I'm still kind of confused on the legitimacy of, if we want to conduct a survey about vacation homes, why would we be asking people who rent? Like, multiple homeowners have an experience, a reference to that experience, a reference to that industry, versus people who can't relate to it. So why would I be asking people who can't relate to the topic?
Let me put it this way. There's a couple issues in that. One is there are different groups of people. So you said like renters, owners, stuff like that. We capture information like that, so we actually can compare the groups.
Okay.
What you're looking for is more than, again, there's this old way of thinking of let's get that one number, and let's get that one number right. Like, let's get the number of % Trump voters within a couple decimal points if we can, or the % whatever voters. There's more data than that. When you take 384 data points and condense it to one number, you've thrown out a lot of information. So if you have information also, sort of subsamples from renters, owners, visitors, right? Now you have some information. One way to think about it is that anyone's input could be helpful, because it's not just preference stuff you're looking for, right? It's also ideas, observations, facts, right? So only one person in this room might have a great idea for something and we win. But if we cast a bigger net, that'll help. In fact, if people in Ohio might have ideas about something here, if they want to participate, great. They probably won't. But the filters let you analyze the data at that next level. That's how we have built up in the results. Okay.
Devin from the internet has another question.
Great.
What technologies do you see as critical to efficient government, community conversations, feedback, etc.?
Okay, so what?
Someone asked me to repeat that.
Yeah, what technologies do we see as critical? I'm going to go to this Civic technology picture here real quick because for the benefit of our local government employee. Okay, so this basic org chart starts to get complicated, right? Do X, did X. We can all do that one-on-one. Full communication loop. And we got thousands of citizens, and we got a bunch of staff. So we actually, it's too complicated for all the citizens to try to do stuff directly, so we have representatives acting on our behalf. Typically 5, 7, 9. Well, now we got to put some more arrows in, don't we? We got to tell them things. We also have to give service feedback directly to staff. Board has to tell staff what to do. It's the policy, board level decisions. Staff has to talk with each other, communicate, hey, did that get done? Do we need to do this? Where's that, right? And they need to report back to the board, yeah, we did this, or we found out this, we got information about this, so you can make a decision for the public, and the board's got to report back to the public meetings. Right? Citizens also have to talk amongst themselves. So there's a lot of technology opportunities there for communications to improve. The 400-year-old public meeting town meeting technology actually works pretty well on all these because they all happen simultaneously with 1,000 people in a room and a moderator. But there's technologies over here, see-click fix, 311 type stuff. You probably heard of these groovy apps where you can ride along and go over a pothole and it will automatically report it. Right? There's a lot of cool civic tech. We focus on this level, call it the governance level. There's a ton of service level stuff that's being done, making it easier for citizens to do building permits, to interact, to get information, to pay bills, all kinds of stuff. And there's technology also for better reporting, meeting packets, organization, clickable, machine readable, and so on and so forth. If Devin has specific questions, feel free to email me. There's a ton of great stuff happening really in the last 5 years under Civic Tech. Yes, sir.
So the technology sounds really interesting for what seem like relatively simple questions. To use your beer run
excellent
analogy, it seems like the real trick is when 51% of the people want the beer run and 49% want a wine run. And then some of the other people don't want to pay as much as for the beer as the rest of the group does.
Yep.
So how does that facilitate the trade-off question, the more complex, nuanced government issues?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Let me take you a pothole example. Okay, so say there's a pothole in front of your house, okay? A public policy that says we're going to fix your pothole, just his pothole. Is that legit? Is that for everyone's benefit to fix his pothole? Suppose the mayor says, hey, I got a pothole in front of my house. Hey, city manager or whatever, let's take care of that. Is that legal? Should it be? Does it happen? Okay, so no, yes, yeah, right? So the reason those are illegal is because there is no overall public benefit. Take schools, however. Not everyone has kids in schools. Well, they're paying the property taxes for the schools. But there is generally a benefit, added value, capitalized or otherwise, into the property for being in that school system. So to your wine and beer run, well, maybe we split the car to go to the liquor store, right? Wine people can pool up, beer people can pool up, but we're just going to pay for the car. So the level at which there's a common problem and common solution is really the optimum level to deal with the government activity. Yeah. This new one, yes. Oh, sorry, yeah. You got one. Oh, he's already got a mic. Perfect.
I just wanted to know if you could talk to the tech a little bit. How many engineers you got working on? What languages are you coding in? And what services are you using?
Yeah, so I'm not allowed to code anymore. It's been a long time since C++ was cool. But we do some Rails. We do some single app stuff. We do just a kind of a Rails CoffeeScript stack. As we do new stuff, we are experimenting with some newer frameworks. But basically, to all the tech people, the technology doesn't matter as much as the usability, the value you're delivering to the customer.
How many engineers?
About 5 right now. Yeah. Yes.
So my question goes a little beyond what you guys are doing now, but I have thought for a long time the fact that we have such a low number in the House of Representatives versus what the population has grown to. I think if you extrapolate from the beginnings, it should be over 4,000 or something like that. Maybe you know, since you're smiling. So obviously it's not feasible to send that many to DC, but I've always thought it would be better to keep them home anyway. And with new technologies, those votes to their smaller level of constituency could go in. Are you guys thinking of trying to move that way into the future as technology allows?
Yeah, so I guess it's an amazing thing, actually. It's a real tribute to the success of the system that number really hasn't changed over 200 years. Isn't that amazing? I mean, factors of 10 or 100x. Could be, yeah. It's failing in ways we don't like for other reasons than that, actually. But the general idea, you think about how can the representatives not just have better information, but actually make better decisions, right? that's where we're going with the GSG labs. So public officials need this piece, but they also need the decision support system to help them make decisions along some of the lines we've been talking about. You maybe have a pretty built-in beer run decision support system already. They don't, and they got people pulling them in all kinds of directions and under the table as well. So the real challenge is how do you make your governing agent represent your interests as a whole? Electroshocks, yeah. Are we voting to shock them or not? And on that horrible point, yeah. One more? Okay, we'll get off that one.
Yeah, so given that you described how when you're making the beer run, you have some sort of public trust. If you are collecting survey data from the populace and delivering it to government officials, you are also in the public trust as the carrier of this data.
Absolutely.
So how are you talking about like open data systems or security? Like in terms of making sure ballot boxes, like or your survey results are not being stuffed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, where is the data that shows like white papers or validation studies that shows your samples are at least as good as a $40,000 pen and paper survey, or that demonstrates the differences in bias between those publicly
Mm-hmm.
available surveys that are already out there?
Yeah, so I'll take the second question first, and you can remind me of the first one. But the second question was, how do we know that we're getting different data? So we've been lucky enough, a couple of times by accident and a couple by design, to do a FlashVote survey after having a different sample. So for example, we just recently did a trail survey for a customer in California that they have data, 86% of emails inbound are against letting bicycles go on this trail. 14% are for. All right, so you're an official, what do you think? You think, oh my gosh, this is the worst idea. We don't want to put bicycles on that trail. We did a FlashVote survey. Turns out it's about split. And we know we pissed off the special interest group behind the bicycle self-organization. That was a really good sign. That's probably the best sign. Anyway, thanks for your time looking at the 8 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
All right. Feel free to sign up for FlashVote if you haven't already.
Yeah.
It's free, fast and fun.
Yeah, and the fact that on the hottest day of our Mountain Mind Mondays of the year, almost everybody stayed to the end and kept asking questions is a very good sign. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.